Despite what some media outlets and YouTubers may have you believe, homeless people are not killing New York City. Migrants are not killing New York City. Rising crime rates are not killing New York City. Greed is killing New York City. Just take a look at this.
But while more and more millionaires and investors are moving into the city, it's putting a real squeeze on the middle class who are having to leave.
We looked everywhere. We couldn't find anything.
Dana Dennis was born and raised in Brooklyn, and together with her husband, they make over $100,000 a year, but had to move to New Jersey after having their first child. They say they couldn't afford a two-bedroom anywhere they wanted to live.
I was seeing things on the market for like $4,500. If I wanted to stay even in Bed-Stuy, I mean, this is not Midtown that we're talking about, right? Like I'm talking about central Brooklyn.
And she's not the only one. In 2022, people leaving New York at the fastest rate were making less than $172,000 a year. That's according to a report from the Fiscal Policy Institute. They also found that more than a third of those leaving New York State were moving in search of affordable housing.
It's the booming economy. If you make $200,000, $300,000 a household income, you can't afford to live in the city anymore. If you make $200,000, $300,000 a household income, you can't afford to live in the city anymore.
If you make $200,000, $300,000 a household income, you can't afford to live in the city anymore.
The average like American dream of buying a home is just really difficult.
And while the millionaires continue to flourish in cities like New York, the middle class finding a new reality outside the urban jungle. Yasmin Vasugian, NBC News.
In what world is it normal where the native citizens of a city get priced out by the 1% because they cannot afford to live there anymore? New York City has literally become a city only for the rich, a city just for the 1%. This city has just become a playground for people that are millionaires, that make an insane amount of money that most of us will never see in our lives. And if you don't think that that's a bad thing, well, then you're already lost, because it is not normal to have something like this in a modern society. It is not healthy. And honestly, where is everyone going to go? If this city is just for the 1%, where is the middle class going to go? Where are lower income people going to go? Where is the culture going to go? Because oftentimes it's middle and lower class people that contribute to culture. Traditionally, New York City was such a unique and original and edgy city that contributed so much to worldwide and American culture because we had so much grit, so much passion, so much originality here. And now everything is just a sanitized, corporatized version of New York City, especially after 9/11. Even big box stores are leaving New York City because they cannot afford to pay the rents here, or the amount of people going to big box stores is just declining. Like, how crazy is that? That even big corporations are leaving New York City, like Macy's and so forth, because they cannot afford to pay the rent here or refuse to. And now this just is so concerning for the future, because this bubble and division between, the poor and the rich in New York City is only going to get more and more and more extreme. And New York City, in my opinion, has always been like a little microcosm of America. It's always been like a little snippet of the whole entire country. And I know that this is not just a New York City problem. Greed is killing America, and greed is killing the largest city in the United States. And it's truly heartbreaking to see, because it's only going to get worse and worse. I mean, even if you check out a studio apartment in the middle of Brooklyn, which is not the heart of the city, you will not find something under $1,500 a month, which requires you to make a salary of about $60,000 a year. That is not sustainable. That is not something most people have, because again, a lot of people still haven't gone to college. A lot of people are still not adapted for the technology age. A lot of jobs don't pay that. There's wage stagnation and inflation. And how can people do this, especially the younger generations like mine that are like just shrouded in debt from undergrad and grad school? How are we supposed to balance all of these things out? So the whole point of this video is to say that it's not migrants killing New York City. It's not homeless people killing New York City, which are, by the way, a byproduct of the housing crisis and ridiculous amount of things that are wrong here going on with policy and inflation and the cost of living. It's not even the subway crime that's killing New York City. It's greed. And I wish people would talk about that more, because it seems like a lot of people conveniently always choose a marginalized group to scapegoat for all of our world's problems. Doesn't that sound familiar from history? Right? Like, a lot of people, I'm not going to get into politics, but let's just say that a lot of people were blaming New York City's decline on migrants, when the real problem is how expensive everything is, how scummy some landlords can be, how wages are stagnated, how the cost of living here is ridiculous, how there's greed, how there's only a more and more and more extreme separation between the poor and the rich and the style and quality of living, right? It's just, this is what we should be talking about. This should be the main agenda. This should be the main topic that everyone talks about when they talk about the decline of New York City, because this is affecting everybody. This is also affecting culture. This is affecting people. This is affecting population. This is affecting even like traditional historic New York City bars and like nightclubs. They're all shutting down. That's culture forever erased because they cannot afford the rents anymore. We already lost so much during the pandemic with so many amazing clubs and bars and restaurants shutting down. Now that everything is picking back up and the greed and the rents and everything is going back to where it was to an even more extreme and fast degree, we are losing a lot of New York City culture due to this greed. And it's like no one cares that the city is being stripped of its originality, of its uniqueness. It's just going to become a bland, basic, corporatized city for the rich where everyone lives in shoebox apartments. That's not a pretty future. So the future of New York City right now, with the way things are going, looks pretty bleak and dystopian. And this is why everybody here has like 5 roommates and lives like they're in a college dorm, because obviously a lot of people cannot afford to live on their own with the way the rents are set up here and are being charged, right? Like no one can afford a $4,000 apartment by themselves, especially if you're just fresh out of college. So what do? They get like 4 or 5 roommates to split that rent up into 4. And even then it's still a lot because of course you have, the expensiveness of food, the expensiveness of clothes, the expensiveness of getting around, the expensiveness of going to events, the expensiveness of everything here in New York City. And it's just hard not to imagine a future where all of this eventually just ruptures and pops and people have had enough. And that won't be a pretty sight, of course. That will be, like a huge Occupy Wall Street movement almost, right? Like it will be where people have finally said enough is enough. We want our city back. And that's not going to be pretty. That's going to lead to a lot of, obviously casualties, and that's not something that I want or anyone wants, right? Total anarchy and chaos, because in my opinion, in America, there is no war but class war. And I just find it so funny how these politicians, with the exception of a few like Bernie Sanders, avoid talking about, the 1% and the elite and the rich and all of this stuff, because it's not convenient to their pockets. They know that they'll lose funding, they'll lose support, they'll lose, their PAC support, they'll lose just a bunch of, positions and power. And obviously, speaking against the people that are funding you is not a convenient or a smart thing to do. But because, of course, money rules in America, they'll stay zip quiet about these type of things. And it's so ironic because this year there's a mayoral election in New York City and everyone is so distracted over stupid things like, the politicians' scandals and history and all these other things, when no one is really talking about how this type of greed is killing New York City and is killing our city and is driving natives away and is driving people away. The only people that are coming into here are millionaires. That's not sustainable. You cannot have a city of only millionaires. That is just not sustainable in the long run. Who's going to be doing the manual labor? Who is going to be the middle class? Like, you cannot just have a city for the rich. Like, imagine having a city that only caters to the rich, where a coffee costs $20, where there's only a Rolex store at Hudson Yards, where they spend billions and trillions of dollars on useless vanity projects that no one even asked for, while there are people starving in the streets, homelessness people are everywhere, sleeping in the subway trains. Like, why are we living in such an upside down world when it doesn't have to be? Because at the end of the day, these are man-made problems. they can have man-made solutions, but it feels almost sinister. Like they don't really care about fixing this. Like they don't really want to fix this because it gives them a problem to run on that then they can platform and say, oh, I'll change the city, I'll fix the city. And then they get the political power, they get into office, and everything is as is. The status quo continues. Things continue to crumble. You know, society keeps on veering off. The veneer keeps on chipping. The 1% keeps on growing while the 99% keeps on faltering. Like, this is what it's truly giving me in terms of the energy. And I know people are starting to notice that and waking up to the fact that at the end of the day, it doesn't seem like anyone is truly invested in fixing these issues and actually addressing them. They just want problems so they could run on them and then do nothing to fix them, because a lot of them are rich themselves. A lot of politicians are rich themselves. A lot of policymakers are rich themselves. So obviously they're not going to create policies that help the working class or the middle class. They're going to make policies that help their pockets. And so New York City right now is really thoroughly screwed because of bad policies, bad politicians, and greed. I want you all to get that through your heads. Don't blame migrants. Don't blame homeless people. Don't even blame drug addicts, okay? Because I'm so tired of people using marginalized groups as scapegoats to blame for all of the city's problems. Yeah, sure, they're a component of everything going on, but they are not the source of the problems. They are a byproduct of all this greed and selfishness and hoarding of wealth in this city. Because if we truly had a more equal city and distribution of wealth, we would not be having these problems in the extreme manners that we're having them in 2025. Anyways, thank you so much for watching my video and listening to my rant. I really wanted to get this off my chest because the future of New York City right now looks uncertain and bleak. And with the way things are going, both in this city and in America as a whole, it's truly disconcerting. And we're living in unprecedented times where money, greed, and power rule above all else. And we'll quickly see the effects, as we are right now, of how that does not build a sustainable society. A society where people only care about themselves and making money and getting, to the top. That does not make a healthy society. That does not make a society that will have longevity. That does not make an empire that will last. And so the cracks are starting to show and people are starting to wake up. And I hope this video was insightful and, let me know what you think, because as always, I love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.